This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
And welcome to Fruitloops. Buiti binafi and bienvenidos, bitches. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.
Fruitloops is a podcast about true crimes committed by people of color and those who are othered and the victims, because there are, believe it or not, systems, institutions, and patterns in society that gatekeep this information. But we're going to give it to you straight, no chaser. The truth is, we're all capable of doing very shitty stuff.
Yep.
And all victims deserve to have their stories told. These crimes rarely get any public attention because, in the simplest of terms, the news is racist. Allegedly.
And we are Wendy and Beth. She's Wendy, a Black Latinx woman, and I'm Beth, and I just happen to be white.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's just a little piece of who we are.
Oh, yes.
But who we are not is journalists, investigators, or psychologists. We're just a couple of gals interested in true crime. Also, the opinions expressed in this podcast are just that, our opinions.
So, who are we talking about today, Fred?
Well, this is our episode 249 about Darrell Edward Brooks Jr., a Black man who murdered 6 people and injured more than 60 others at a Christmas parade. And his weapon was his SUV.
So before we get into it, how you doing, friend?
I'm doing good, but I just wanted to say, so this will drop before Christmas, and then this is our last episode before Christmas, actually. So I just wanted to say happy holidays to all the fruities.
Yes.
Whatever holidays you might be celebrating. In my house, we've always celebrated Christmas, but as a time of appreciating friends and family. It's not religious for us, but I do appreciate that it is religious for many people.
Right.
So Merry Christmas to everyone who celebrates Christmas. But I also wanted to acknowledge that there are many other different holidays that people celebrate, like Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, even New Year's Eve. I know in Russia, New Year's Eve is a big deal because they don't celebrate, or they didn't anyway, celebrate Christmas.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
and,
well,
we're top of the charts in Russia, so.
It's just an interesting little tidbit when they were the Soviet Union, because they discouraged religion. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Also wanted to mention that we will be taking a break in January and February, but no worries. We'll have things for you to listen to, and we're planning some fun stuff. So we'll be back after the break, and we will see you then.
Absolutely. And we hope you enjoy what we have in store for you during that break.
Yeah.
Also during the break, don't forget you can get at us. So get at us and talk to us. Tips, how not to get murdered, blah, 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 all the things.
Anything.
You know
just
what it is.
Reach out. You miss us.
Yeah.
Just send us an email.
We're always thinking about you, and we love hearing from you guys.
Yeah.
So with that said, let's get into some listener letters.
Well, hello, angels. Thank you. Happy holidays, angels.
Happy holidays, angels. What's in that bag, Beth?
Well, I wanted to say thank you to You Slay Me for your 5-star review and for reading the bad reviewers for filth.
All right, that needs a hip-hop air horn right now because I did not see this review, Beth, but I saw your
I think it is
comment.
actually from October.
Okay.
And I missed it.
Oh.
Because I saw a bunch of bad reviews.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, a lot of people
like
complain about a long intro, and we get it.
Yeah.
That's why we do the Fruitloops shorts. So if you don't like this long intro that we're doing right now,
yeah,
you can, as You Slay Me pointed out, fast forward through this. Or
Absolutely.
you just wait until next week and we'll release a Fruitloops short of this episode. And we take out all the extraneous content for you.
Yeah. And also, we understand, we have known since day one. Fruit Loops is not for everybody, and that's okay. There's lots of podcasts out there, and if this is not the one for you, that's all right, boo. We love you anyway, and Godspeed.
Yes. And if you have any questions or comments, please send them to fruitloopspod@gmail.com. Don't do a 1-star review.
No, it's 5 stars only because we're 5-star hosts.
A 5-star only show, yeah. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 602-935-6294. And we may feature it on a future episode, but if you don't want us to, just let us know and we won't do it.
It's as simple as that.
It sure is.
Now, so our mailbag was full of You Slay
You Slay Me.
You Slay Me. And so what we're going to do now is take a quick ad break and get into the story when we come back. But I forgot to say that for people who are like, should I join the Patreon? I don't know. Yeah, you should, because you get merch. You get a personalized shout-out tune. What else do you get?
Well,
bonus
we're
content.
doing a live show right now for the Patreons.
You get access to live recordings. You get access to live virtual events because I'm not leaving Car Studios to go anywhere. And you also get...
Explaining that she's in her car recording right now.
Yes, you'll get the details about that. Actually, I am planning on chronicling my journey in the wilderness.
Oh, wow.
On our Patreon. So I'll have photos, videos, and audio of, what me, old Whitey, and my offspring are going through.
I'm excited for that.
It's going to be super disorganized and not like neat, clean. Like it's Wendy doing it. So
it's real life.
Yeah. So but like Beth is very like, she wants it to be polished and clean and everything to be organized. I do like a good organization. I'm like one of those fruit flies that won't go away and is always around. So that's what my journey content will be like. She has
piles of things around her. She knows where everything is, though.
I do. Don't forget it. So we just appreciate all y'all for listening. And
thank
you. That said, we're going to take a quick break and get into the story when we come back.
On the morning of August 1st, 1966, shots ring out from the observation deck of the clock tower on the University of Texas campus. It marks the infamous beginning of the modern era of mass shootings in America.
You're listening to Stop the Killing podcast. Join us as we take you behind the crime scene tape to explain global mass shootings and mass attacks. I'm Sarah Ferris, but more importantly, this is Catherine Schweit, the former head of the FBI's active shooter program.
I spent 5 years as the FBI's top executive looking for answers to the mass shooting crisis. I've been at the shooting scenes, I've traced heroic acts of bravery, and I've sat silently and listened to the heart-wrenching stories from survivors.
Amongst this horror, there is hope. We all hold the key to stop the killing. You just need to know how to unlock the door. Download Stop the Killing and be part of the solution. Search Stop the Killing on Apple, Spotify, and all the usual suspects.
The truth about the Haditha massacre has been covered up, but not anymore.
I know you know what happened.
They went into houses and killed women and children.
What are you thinking?
What a mess.
U.S. Marines murdered innocent civilians in cold blood.
And at the center of it all
is 25-year-old Sergeant Frank Wuderick.
and me. Murder in House 2, a new podcast from Crowd Network.
All right, we are back. Remind us, Beth, who is our subject today?
Our subject is Darrell Edward Brooks Jr., a mass murderer who killed 6 people and injured more than 60 others at a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. The ages of the dead ranged from 8 to 81.
So now we are on to the love and light portion of our program where we say just rest in power to the victims, love and light to the communities, loved ones, and everybody left in the wake of this crime. There were so many people injured, so our hearts go out to them as well. The victims' names are Virginia Ginny Sorensen, 79, Leanna Lee Owen, 71, Tamara Tammy Durand, 52, Jane Kulich, 52, Willem Bill Hospital, 81, and Jackson Sparks, 8 years old. So now let's get into the setting. Take us there, Beth.
The setting today is Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where our subject grew up. The Potawatomi, Ojibwe, and Odawa people were the primary inhabitants of Milwaukee in the 18th century, but indigenous groups such as the Fox, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sauk, and Oneida have all called Milwaukee their home at some point in the last 3 centuries.
I was just going to say, I didn't know about Milwaukee until I saw the movie Wayne's World, where Alice Cooper was... Do you remember Wayne's World?
I don't remember. I remember Wayne's World, but I don't remember this part.
Okay, so Alice Cooper is filming a scene with Wayne in his basement where he had his show. And he was like, actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee. And that's how I always, when I hear Milwaukee, that's what I think of.
You always think
I don't know if that's true. Yeah. I've never researched it. I don't know. I probably should have researched it for this episode, but
there you go.
Milwaukee. So anyway, the name Milwaukee or Milwaukee comes from the Algonquin word Milioke. Oh my God, it does, which means good land. And the Potawatomi word Mingwaking, which means gathering place by the waters.
The Black community in Milwaukee dates from the earliest days of the city's settlement. Although the Northwest Ordinance of 1787 prohibited slavery in the Wisconsin Territory, enforcement was lax and enslaved people, both Black and Native American, were brought into the region.
That's interesting because I've heard in stories told that they tried to enslave indigenous people, but they just couldn't do it. Because they knew the terrain better than the white people.
Yeah.
They were more skilled than the white people. And so white people in their endeavor had to go to Africa to bring people who were unfamiliar with this territory. People on stolen land do fucked up stuff in the name of white supremacy. But anyway, Wisconsin became a free state in 1848. At that time, the number of Black people in the state and in Milwaukee in particular was fairly small. It remained that way until the Great Migration, the mass exodus of Black Southerners to northern industrial urban centers in the early to mid-20th century.
World War I created opportunities in northern cities, opening up industrial jobs and urban manufacturing centers. The migration followed railroad tracks to cities like Milwaukee, Chicago, Cleveland, and Detroit.
During and after World War II, the economic opportunities in industrial work opened up as Milwaukee's Black community grew rapidly. By 1960, 15% of the city's population was Black. Mississippi was the most common state of origin for Milwaukee's Black residents during the Great Migration. And that's interesting in that if you meet a Black person from the Midwest, they seem very Southern. And that is because those traditions,
their families,
even the accents and the way that they speak, the food that they eat is all Southern African American. Culture Corner.
But Black Americans in Milwaukee still face discrimination and prejudice and rigid patterns of residential segregation, with redlining where areas on maps were marked in red to indicate where banks would not loan money, and white flight.
Black people found themselves consigned to the quote-unquote colored district, also known as Milwaukee's Little Africa, which is really, I don't feel great about it.
It's kind of gross.
Yeah, and like many of these districts around the country, middle and upper class Black people were locked into the same area along with poor Black folks and other racial and ethnic groups.
Despite these challenges, the Black community in Milwaukee built local institutions like churches and schools and relied on self-help strategies to survive. Milwaukee's Black community also has a long history of civil rights activism and resistance to patterns and practices associated with racial inequality.
During the 1960s, this persistent struggle came to a head when the March on Milwaukee for Fair Housing played a key role in shaping federal legislation of the civil rights era.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But residential segregation, racialized criminalization, employment bias, unemployment, and poverty still plagues Milwaukee's Black community and dominates the city's public discourse.
Our second location where the incident took place is Waukesha, a bedroom community about 20 miles west of Milwaukee. It is on the Fox River, has lovely parks, and a historic downtown that has hosted a Christmas parade for over 60 years.
Now, Waukesha is very white, but when this happened, this wasn't that long ago. I was like, Waukesha? What happened in Waukesha? What did Waukesha do? But it's not Waukesha. I'm sorry. So Waukesha is very white, and less than 4% of Waukesha residents are Black. Spoiler alert, me personally, I would have a hard time existing as a Black person in a place like that. That would be really difficult.
It would be.
Despite the city's history as the home of Native tribes, the Native American population is less than 0.1%. Asian Americans make up 3.7% of the population, and the largest ethnic group is Latinx at approximately 13%. So now we're going to get into the early life of Darrell Edward Brooks Jr. Hit it, Beth.
Darrell Edward Brooks Jr. was born on February 21st, 1982 in Milwaukee. Darrell was raised by his mother, Dawn Woods. His father was out of the picture. Darrell later claimed that he had a terrible childhood with his mother working 2 or 3 jobs at a time. She was just trying to survive, but I'm sure he felt neglected.
Yeah, and did you watch any of the courtroom footage or listen to any of that?
A little bit, not much, because he drove me nuts.
It was challenging. I listened to the whole court proceedings.
My God. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I listened to it to go to bed for the past 3 days.
God.
I know. I'm a nutcase. But anyway, his point of view is different than reality. So he says he has a terrible childhood, but I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know how true that is. That's what he said.
That's my impression.
Yeah.
So he said that they lived in poverty. Their apartment was infested with insects and rodents, and that live bugs were often found in their morning cereal, jaw on the floor. He mentioned growing up without a father, standing with his mother in the welfare line to receive milk and cheese, and that he'd been bullied and made fun of, which I'm not discounting. That is difficult.
Right.
But
there's a lot of people out there that have gone through this and they never killed anybody. So
yeah.
According to his grandmother, in 1994, at the age of 12, Darrell was hospitalized for mental health conditions and diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which I don't know that they can diagnose a child of 12 with bipolar. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know for sure, but it's my understanding they don't really diagnose those kinds of disorders until they're older, but I could be wrong.
Well, yeah, and to your point, it's pre-adolescent, so he's like a preteen.
Right.
But also, Black young people are often misdiagnosed, undiagnosed, the whole gamut, because white providers were not trained on how to identify symptoms and diagnose Black people, Black minds in the psychology field, or Black bodies in the internist or any other field. And so,
and I wonder if he was misdiagnosed.
I thought that a lot throughout my research of the case, for reals.
Yeah. So according to his mother, Darrell has bipolar disorder and a personality disorder. And without his medication, he gets explosive when he panics or is afraid.
As a teenager, Brooks started getting into trouble with the law. In 1999, when Darrell was 15, he was charged with substantial battery. That's a new one for me.
I never heard that one before.
Yeah, substantial battery.
Substantial.
So it must have been very bad. After attacking a man with it was bad.
Yeah.
After attacking a man with a knife. After pleading guilty, he received 6 months. So how old is he? He's 15. 6 months in the House of Correction, a dormitory-style facility in Franklin, and 3 years probation. What were you going to say?
It doesn't even sound real, the House of Correction. It sounds like something from the Blues Brothers, you know?
Oh, well,
They got released from the House of Correction.
I was thinking it sounded like the name of a horror movie.
Yeah, it could be the name of a horror movie.
House of Correction.
Ooh, the House of Correction.
Bone chilling. I don't want to go there.
Brooks's mother later released a statement to reporters saying that as a child, Darrell received counseling and was on medication. But when he became an adult, quote, a decision was made that he no longer suffered from a mental illness. That decision left him with no insurance or financial means to pay for medication and necessary counseling, unquote. And I'm assuming this is the state, like maybe he was on Medicaid. And they decided he was suffering from mental illness and he no longer.
Yeah.
I don't know, though.
And that will, I think, get to some systems issues that I'll talk about in my takeaways. There's a lot of systems at play here that led to this, and that was one that failed. So she added, quote, instead of offering help and resources to combat the problem, a jail cell was given. Man, his mom... Is she a writer? Because bars. A jail cell was given instead of solving the problem. She also says, quote, over and over again, when mental illness is not properly treated, the person becomes sicker and sicker, just like any other illness, by the way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go away once a person becomes an adult, unquote.
Yeah. Where's the lie?
Yeah, not one detected.
Yeah.
Now... it's timeline time. Let's get into the timeline. What do you got for us, Beth? What happened? Well, come to find out. Sorry. Matter of fact.
Between 2002 and 2003, Brooks was charged with 2 low-level crimes, marijuana possession and misdemeanor obstruction, in Milwaukee County. He was sentenced to a total of 70 days in the House of Correction.
He had to go back there?
Had to go back there.
Ooh. Then, in 2006, Brooks, who was 24, was convicted of statutory sexual seduction after impregnating a 15-year-old girl in Sparks, Nevada.
Ugh, gross.
And he was required to register as a sex offender.
In 2007, a documentary about methamphetamine addiction called Crystal Darkness was released. It features an interview with Brooks while he was in jail in Reno, Nevada. In it, he says, quote, You actually become the drug, not even a human being. I was just something vile, disgusting, despicable, unquote. And this is the only reference to meth that I found.
Okay.
So I don't know if he was doing it when he was living in Nevada and that's it, or he kept doing it or never actually was doing it. I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to say something maybe controversial.
Okay.
But in my life, in the recovery spaces, people don't just casually start and stop doing meth. And so if there was no treatment in the part of the story, my impression is he was still involved with
if he was doing
that substance. Yeah, or something.
I don't even know if he was actually doing it. Because doing drugs. Because
I've been wanting to say that for so long.
Because this is the only reference to drugs in this story at all. And he may have just wanted to be in the documentary.
Maybe, because I think there's no reference to this in our script, but he was also an aspiring rapper. And there's video of him on YouTube rapping.
Okay.
But I didn't listen. And so I didn't analyze his lyrics.
Don't know if he's any good.
So I don't know if there's references to other illicit drug use within those lyrics. But
so anyway, just stuff to think about.
Yeah, certainly. So on February 24th, 2010, Brooks was charged with strangulation, battery, and criminal damage to property in Wood County, Wisconsin, after a woman told police he had shoved her to the ground during an argument and grabbed her throat.
Brooks pleaded no contest to the strangulation charge and was found guilty. The other counts were dismissed as part of a plea agreement. He was sentenced to 90 days in jail with work release and 3 years probation.
In March of 2011, in Milwaukee County, during a traffic stop, when he was pulled over for not wearing a seatbelt, Brooks turned on his car and put it into drive.
Oh, geez.
And the officer said he was afraid that Brooks was going to run him over. He was charged with resisting an officer. Sounds appropriate.
Yeah, you don't do that. Not a good idea.
Nope.
His probation was revoked from the Wood County strangulation case, and he was sent to jail for 11 months. The following year, Brooks pleaded guilty for resisting an officer in the Milwaukee traffic stop, and he was sentenced to 37 days in the House of Correction.
Again.
We're
going to have to, maybe we'll have to do a deep dive into this House of Correction. It sounds like a house of scary stuff.
Yeah.
In November of 2012, a sex offender sweep in Nevada found that Brooks had provided a false address on his registration. In June of 2016, police in Sparks, Nevada, arrested Brooks for failing to obey sex offender laws. He had not been in compliance with the registry since 2008. That's a long-ass time for a predator to be
8
out.
years.
Yeah.
So I guess he just wasn't providing them with his address? Is that what it was? I think so.
Yeah, another system failure. Yeah.
Right. Brooks posted bail in that case, but later failed to appear in court. A warrant was issued for his arrest. It's unclear exactly when Brooks moved back to Wisconsin after this, but once he did so, he had 10 days to register as a sex offender in Wisconsin. And guess what? He never did.
Yep, another system failure. So despite repeated contacts with Wisconsin law enforcement, no one, not a one person, realized he was a sex offender until the parade attack. And that is unfortunate for everybody.
Yeah, another system failure.
Mm-hmm.
In July of 2020, pandemic times, Brooks was accused of firing a gun at his nephew and another person during an argument in Milwaukee. Thankfully, no one was injured in the shooting, but he was charged with 2 counts of second-degree reckless endangering safety and 1 count of felon in possession of a firearm. And bail was set at $10,000. That's the highest one yet.
Yeah, and bail reform will come up later on in the story, but I keep reiterating that there are systems and laws and people that are supposed to follow them and check that things are done and file this and that, and people didn't do that. And then add the pandemic on top of that.
Yeah, it was a mess.
There was a lot of things slipping through the cracks, I think.
Right.
And so the next month, Brooks entered a speedy trial demand, and his attorney argued for lower bail. The judge agreed and set it at $7,500. In February of 2021, Brooks was scheduled for a jury trial but his trial could not proceed because of another ongoing trial in the courtroom. And that was, personally, I had a lot of trials. All my trials were canceled in 2020 because of the pandemic. So there was a
backup of trials.
Yeah, so they were like, all criminal trials first, and civil ones were put to the back burner.
Right.
But even the criminal trials the court system is already overloaded with too much. So it just delayed things even further.
Yeah. So his case was postponed and bail lowered to $500, which was posted days later. Brooks was ordered to have no contact with a number of people, including his own mother.
In March of 2021, a Waukesha County prosecutor asked for Brooks to be found in contempt of court and violation of court orders in a long-running child support case. Brooks received a stayed sentence of 120 days in jail with work release privileges to be imposed any time in the next 2 years if he didn't make his monthly payments in full.
In May of 2021, Brooks was arrested in Union City, Georgia, in a domestic violence case. A man told police that he confronted Brooks after hearing what sounded like Brooks beating a woman on the other side of a wall in a hotel.
I was just noticing that Brooks is going from Nevada, which is on the west side of the country, to Georgia, to the Midwest, which is in the middle. Like, how is he affording all these plane tickets?
And
I haven't seen my family in 5 years. How does he
might have been driving around. I don't know.
Good point.
Yeah.
So Brooks received a signature bond, meaning he signed a document promising to show up for future court dates. And, of course, he never showed.
In June of 2021, Brooks appeared in Milwaukee County Court in person with his attorney for a status hearing in his 2020 shooting case. His trial in the 2020 shooting case was postponed due to court congestion, meaning that other cases needed to be heard in the courtroom. And again, this was happening a lot during this time because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right. On November 2nd, 2021, police were called to a domestic violence incident at a gas station in Milwaukee. Erica Patterson, Brooks's girlfriend and mother of one of his children, told police that she had refused to get into Brooks' SUV. So he punched her in the face and then ran her over as she walked through the gas station parking lot.
Jesus Christ.
Leaving her with a bloody face and tire tracks on her leg.
Yikes.
Yeah, just what would possess a human to do that to another human?
To do something
is my
like
question.
that, yeah. Brooks was arrested and booked into Milwaukee County Jail. As part of the intake process, sheriff's deputies checked the National Crime Information Center for his background. The years-long open warrant for skipping court in Nevada and his recent arrest in Georgia had not been entered by those agencies, another system failure. Mm-hmm. So they did not appear on the report.
And these system failures harm subsequent people, other people.
Yeah.
So on November 3rd, Brooks called his mother from Milwaukee County Jail and said prosecutors wouldn't be able to pursue the domestic violence case if the victim did not cooperate. Jail calls are recorded, and sometimes criminals forget that. So the next day, Brooks called the victim, Erica Patterson, and it was the first of several calls trying to get her to take back her account to the police.
This December, Christmas gets creepy with the Empty Coffin Podcast. This is host Greg Hansberry, and we are unwrapping the dark side of the holidays. This month, we revisit the haunting tragedy of a rock legend's final performance.
The band was on. They had just started their opening song. The killer walks across the stage, gun drawn.
We revive the forgotten tradition of telling ghost stories for Christmas.
There's this miserable, sour old man who spends all the time on his own in the graveyard, and the goblins take him.
And we sink our teeth into Nosferatu lore.
This story cropped up that the actor who played Nosferatu was so convincing that he was an actual vampire.
The Empty Coffin Podcast is part of the Evergreen Network. Subscribe on your favorite app and have yourself a scary little Christmas.
Hey, podcast listeners, I'm Paul Brandis introducing my podcast, Countdown to Dallas. It's a fascinating, in-depth look at the seemingly unconnected events that led to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. It's based on my book of the same title. In that book and in this podcast, I go all the way back to 1939, when Lee Harvey Oswald was born into a troubled and dysfunctional family. I'll follow his transient and often violent teenage years and young adulthood, painting a fuller picture of the man who would later become Kennedy's killer. I also take a look at events unfolding in that era, like Cuba and Vietnam, and I'll unpack the conspiracy theories too, not one of which has ever been conclusively proven. Subscribe to Countdown to Dallas at evergreenpodcasts.com or your favorite listening app, October 31st.
Brooks made a total of 11 calls, 2 to his mother and 9 to Erica, trying to keep her from cooperating. That included 6 phone calls after he was charged in the case, and a no-contact order with Erica was put in place. He both threatened her and coerced her, even offering marriage in exchange for dropping the charges.
Nigga, I don't want to marry you. Oh my God, are you fucking nuts? So a mill?
Yeah, I think there's a little narcissism in there. Yeah, just a little.
I mean, are you?
A touch.
Wait, are you serious? You think you're a prize? You think you're a prize? Oh my God, what is this? Am I being punked? Oh my God, narcissism to the max. So a Milwaukee County Court commissioner set Brooks's bail at $1,000. Despite a pretrial risk assessment that found Brooks was a very high risk of committing another crime. In 2021, Milwaukee County was really, really backlogged, and this is a systems issue again.
According to Erica Birma, a criminal defense attorney, quote, "A lot of courts in the populated counties may have reevaluated bond decisions in a way that they wouldn't have done pre-COVID," unquote.
Yeah, I mean, it was unprecedented, but
they were releasing people more than they had before or dropping bonds lower because they were overcrowded.
Yeah. I don't know what else could have been done. That's above my pay grade, but
it was a problem.
Yeah, it was a problem. And certainly I think a lot of more effort could have been devoted to speaking to community people, speaking to leaders in the community, activists
but I think everybody was also overworked and exhausted.
That too. You're right. You're absolutely right. That's my friend Beth. She's very smart. Now, similar patterns played out across the country during the pandemic as courts sought to reduce jail crowding as they struggled to catch up on delayed trials.
On November 11th, Brooks's mother posted his bail, and he was released on November 16th, 5 days before the parade attack. But he had a hold from the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department related to his open child support case, so he was taken directly to Waukesha County Jail.
Brooks appeared before the Waukesha County Court Commissioner. The prosecutor wanted the jail time to be imposed immediately. Brooks claimed that he could not pay his child support because he had been in custody for 6 months in Georgia during that time.
Aww.
Oh, sorry. Your kids still need food and diapers, so...
2 days before the parade attack, Brooks was allowed to be released on his own recognizance. No one in court that day checked Wisconsin's online court records, which actually showed that Brooks had appeared in person in Milwaukee County in the middle of the time frame. He said that he was in custody in Georgia, so it was a lie.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'll get into this later, but he has a lot of experience with the courts, which is why I think he was so confident to do what he did at the end of the story.
Yeah.
So at the same time, Waukesha was preparing for its annual Christmas parade. In 2020, the parade had been canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but in 2021, it was back, and the city was also celebrating its 125th anniversary.
The parade is the official kickoff to the holiday season in downtown Waukesha and one of the city's biggest events of the year. The theme of the 58th annual event held on Sunday, November 21st, was comfort and joy.
The irony of that theme after what happened is wild.
Yeah.
So there were more than 60 entries, including the Waukesha Fire Department, the Old Car Club, high school marching bands, dance troops, Little League sports teams, and Santa, scheduled to march through downtown. It's a family-friendly event that draws spectators from other counties even.
On that Sunday, local residents gathered in the downtown area of Waukesha, and the crowd lined both sides of the road. People stood or sat in chairs that they had brought and were bundled up against the cold. Wisconsin Mayor Sean Riley described seeing smiling children and happy parents as he marched along the parade route.
I mean, we can all imagine, we've all been there, right? A wonderful Christmas parade. It's cold. You got the hot cocoa. We got our chairs. We walked 45 minutes just to get to this spot. You know, it's a thing. It's a big event. It's
celebratory.
Exciting.
Yeah.
And sometime after the parade started at 4, police were called to the scene of a domestic disturbance involving Brooks and Erica Patterson. According to Erica, the two argued in his SUV before he started driving. And he was, quote, driving around with one hand on the steering wheel and striking her in the face with the other hand, unquote. Monstrous.
Yeah, awful. She eventually got free and called her friends for help. Brooks fled the scene in his red Ford Escape. How apropos. An escape.
Yeah.
Just as officers...
Wow. Wait, what? I didn't even put that together.
Yeah.
Wow. Hang on. I need a hip hop air horn because that is... You know what? I'll just do applause. Yeah. Good job, Beth. Good job. Good job. Proud of you.
So as he's escaping in his red Escape, officers were arriving. Then just before 4:40 p.m., less than an hour after the parade started, Brooks encountered the Christmas parade.
Videos from the scene show the vehicle speeding down the street, reportedly at 40 miles per hour. At first, passing by the participants as spectators watched from the sidewalks. Then the SUV started swerving and plowing into people.
Witnesses said the driver seemed to be swerving on purpose as if to cause as much damage as possible. They could hear the thuds as the SUV struck people and described bodies being thrown into the air.
Some people ran into nearby stores. Many were screaming and crying as police officers ran down the street, telling people to get off the street. Spectators spoke about the shock and horror of witnessing an act of violence at what was supposed to be a family-friendly event.
Tyler Kotlerick, 28, was watching the parade with his family members when they heard what at first sounded like cheering, but then they realized it was screams. Quote, "It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life," unquote.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of interviews of the witnesses, and it was horrifying.
Horrible, yeah.
Corey Montijo, a school district of Waukesha board member, said that his daughter's youth dance team, composed of girls between the ages of 9 and 15 years old, had been hit. He said, quote, "There were pom-poms and shoes and spilled hot chocolate everywhere. I had to go from one crumpled body to another to find my daughter," unquote. And thankfully for him, his daughter was okay.
Yeah.
But many were not.
Yeah. When the SUV got to the end of the parade route, it burst through barricades and sped away from the scene. A law enforcement officer can be seen in one video chasing the SUV by foot for a short distance. That officer shot 3 rounds into the SUV but failed to stop it. Brooks was not hit by the bullets, and thankfully no bystanders were injured by gunfire either. Which, I can't believe he shot at the... I mean, I understand why he wanted to shoot at the SUV, but with all those people around, that's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And very unsafe. And
yes. I'm glad nobody got hit.
Another police system failure, if you ask me. So, yeah, I'm glad nobody got hurt. Initially, it was reported that 5 people had died and 48 others had been injured. 3 of the dead were members of the Milwaukee Dancy Grannies, a dance group composed solely of grandmothers. Many of the injured were children.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Murdered were 81-year-old Bill Hospel, who was known to be very active despite his age, and he encouraged others to be active as well. He was an avid outdoorsman, loved dancing with his wife Lola, and square dancing with their son Brian and daughter Lori. He and Lola had also recently started playing pickleball.
Oh, of course they did, because it was 2020.
Yeah.
I love that. And Lola was a member of the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies, a dance troupe made up all of grandmothers. The grannies were dancing in the parade, and Bill was helping out, passing out water when he was struck and killed. Lola was also injured, but she survived.
79-year-old Ginny Sorensen was the leader of the Dancing Grannies. She was a retired nurse. Ginny's granddaughter posted a tribute on Facebook in her honor saying, "My grandmother taught me everything I needed to know in life. So happy and proud to be following in her footsteps as a nurse." She also wrote, "I'll become the best nurse possible" in her honor.
That's beautiful. Lee Owen, 71, was also a member of the Dancing Grannies and had been for 12 years. She never missed a practice and loved her fellow members like sisters. A mother and a grandmother, she had worked as an apartment manager for nearly 10 years. She was also passionate about animals and had rescued many cats and dogs throughout her life.
Tammy Durand, 52, was also a member of the Dancing Grannies, and it was Tammy's first time dancing with them. She worked as a hospice and critical care chaplain. She was doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
According to WISC News, Tammy once saved a man from drowning in the Wisconsin River.
Wow, that's incredible. Oh, Jane Kulik, 52, worked for Citizens Bank and was representing them in the parade. The bank shared on Facebook, quote, "Jane was a mother and a grandmother who joined the bank just over 1 year ago. In that time, she shared her bright spirit with everyone around her," unquote. She was also a longtime server at Dave's Family Restaurant in Waukesha.
All Waukesha public schools were closed that Monday, with counselors made available during the school day at the schools for any of the students in need of the services. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers ordered all U.S. and state flags to be flown at half-mast.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the investigation and the arrest. So shortly after the attack, Brooks knocked on the door of a local homeowner asking to come inside and use his phone. The resident, not yet knowing of the parade attack, said Brooks looked thin and cold.
He made him a sandwich and let him borrow a jacket.
Wow.
Yeah, really nice guy.
That's Midwest nice.
Yeah,
that is
that is.
Midwest nice if I ever did see it. Wow.
But he asked Brooks to leave after about 10 minutes when he started getting nervous because a police car was driving up and down the street. Brooks was arrested minutes later as he stood on the porch of a house.
And I don't think I'm imagining this, but I heard audio of Brooks saying, "Please call me an Uber. Please call me an Uber so I can get out of here. I gotta go. Please call me an Uber." That was at this point.
So when he asked to use the phone, I think his excuse was that he was trying to call an Uber.
Okay, got it. So Brooks, after he was arrested, was charged with 5 counts of homicide. By November 23rd, 2 days after the incident, the number of people reported injured had increased to 62, and the number of fatalities had increased to 6 after 8-year-old little Jackson Sparks died at the hospital.
Jackson was the youngest fatality. He was in the parade with his older brother Tucker, who was 12, and they were marching with their Little League baseball team when they were both hit. Tucker suffered a skull fracture and survived, but little Jackson did not.
Darrell Brooks was charged with dozens of felonies, including 5 charges of first-degree intentional homicide. He wore an anti-suicide smock and cried as the judge informed him that each crime carried a sentence of life in prison.
His bail was set at $5 million. Good.
Mm-hmm.
After the death of 8-year-old Jackson Sparks, a 6th homicide charge was added.
And First Lady Jill Biden met privately with the victims' family members and attended a memorial to the victims on December 15th. Moving on to the trial. Hit it, Beth.
Here we go.
Oh, this is a doozy.
What
do you got?
Yeah. Brooks was charged, as I said, with 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, then also 71 other counts. Brooks declared himself a sovereign citizen, fired his attorney, and was representing himself.
What do they say? A fool represents himself. I don't know. basically a dumbass represents
man
himself.
who represents himself as a fool for a client or something like that. I don't
Thank
know.
you. That's my
Fool
smart
for
friend.
a lawyer?
One or the other. One or the other. This is
He's an
basically
idiot, in other words.
This is a dumb move.
Yeah,
but
don't
again,
do that.
I think he must have felt confident because he had
and also
been
if
through
he
the legal system
was
so much.
narcissistic,
Mm-hmm.
then he would be like, "Oh, of
Yes.
course I can do this." Yeah.
Law school. So
Who needs it?
So he continually spouted points from the pseudo-legal sovereign citizen movement, a large anti-government extremist movement whose adherents believe the government is the illegitimate product of a conspiracy that subverted the original lawful government. The movement claims that people don't need to follow the U.S. legal system. And I gotta say, I thought this was white shit.
Yeah, so
That mostly white dudes do this. But
it's, from what I understand, it comes from some racist stuff. So I think it started out as white shit, and there's like the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
There's some kind of tie to the Civil War. I don't know a whole lot about this sovereign citizens movement, except it's really stupid, and they it's almost like they think they can say abracadabra and they get out of things, but it doesn't ever work. It never works. So I don't know why I think that.
I don't know either, but I went down a Reddit rabbit hole. And you remember when Wesley Snipes got popped for not paying his taxes?
No, I don't.
Well,
but
his argument was he was a sovereign citizen.
Are you serious?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no. So, yeah, there is a black sovereign citizens movement as well.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, it's, again, I thought it was mostly white shit and white violent extremist terrorist shit.
And it is.
Yes. And it still is. The thing is, this movement is not going anywhere. It is growing. Yeah. So be on the lookout.
Ridiculous.
Look alive, y'all.
So Brooks attempted to delay his trial numerous times, but it began on October 3rd, 2022. He was repeatedly removed to a separate courtroom to participate via video because of his behavior. Brooks talked over the judge, repeatedly asked irrelevant questions, and refused to follow directions. When in the second courtroom, he often engaged in angry, animated hand gestures because they cut off his mic.
Yeah. The judge kept muting him. Shout out to this judge, though, because this was a hard case to, I think, for anybody to preside over.
Yeah.
And this judge, she didn't that's it. I'm holding.
Get
do you
mad.
remember the courtroom scene in Ghostbusters when the judge was like, "That's it. I'm holding you in contempt," and then Slimer comes in and everything is like chaos.
Yeah.
She
it wasn't
avoided
like that. Huh?
Yeah, and she did a good job. So the prosecution called several witnesses to the stand, almost all of which gave emotional testimony about what they saw during the attack. Brooks was allowed to cross-examine the witnesses. His questions were designed to cast doubt that he was the one driving.
His own car.
Yeah. And I learned this about the sovereign citizens is that they kept saying the state of Wisconsin versus Mr. Brooks. And he was like, his argument was the state of Wisconsin is not a real entity. It's not a person. It's not somebody alive. So therefore, I'm not guilty.
It doesn't exist.
I think that's where he was going, but
yeah, it's ridiculous.
So when the scammer uses the hypnotic method of building rapport, then they create dysfunctional, delusional reality.
That's how a scam begins. Convincing the mark that it makes perfect sense to hand over their money to a con artist. The Scams and Cons podcast tells you how scams are run. You'll hear how people are convinced to buy fake art, buy machines that print money, or steal your house.
I get a phone call from my wife, and she let me know that they had decided to move all our stuff out. I could no longer do anything about it except go through an eviction.
And you'll hear it from the experts, people who run the cons.
So we go to your bank, you go in and get $6,000 cash, give us each $3,000, we give you this. You go home and what you find out is cut up newspaper.
It's fun to know how the trick is done, and that's what Scams and Cons is all about. Listen at scamsandcons.com or wherever fine podcasts are found.
And on October 26, 2022, Darrell Brooks was found guilty on all counts. The jury deliberated for a total of 3 hours and 15 minutes before announcing that they had reached a verdict. Brooks was convicted on 6 counts of intentional homicide.
On November 16th, 2022, during his sentencing, as victims and family members spoke, Brooks could be seen rolling his eyes, smacking his chest, and slowly clapping. What a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And he then delivered a long-winded, rambling statement for over 2 hours.
That's such bullshit.
His talents could have... I mean, imagine if he didn't... If this never happened.
If he wasn't an asshole.
Yeah, like he could have... I mean...
Just imagine.
Just imagine the skills that he could have used to help the world instead of hurting it.
Yeah. So for the first time since the parade attack, Brooks did finally manage to apologize for what happened at the parade. But not for the fact that he was responsible for it. He told the court he needed help for his mental illness and wanted to be sent somewhere where he could receive it in the form of medication.
What, and just take his medication and skip through the tulips in town? No, sir.
No.
So the judge read aloud portions of reports written by 4 mental health experts who examined Brooks. This was in regard to whether or not he could represent himself in court. Their findings were that while he has a personality disorder and is disruptive, he did not suffer from mental disease or defect and was intelligent and articulate enough to defend himself.
The judge said that he knew right from wrong and that he clearly knew what he was doing at the time of the attack, and there was something wrong with his character that allowed him to intentionally and knowingly commit these acts, but he was not mentally ill.
Brooks was sentenced to serve 6 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. So now let's get into where are they now? Tell us, Beth.
Well, Darrell Brooks received an additional 9 years for the domestic violence incident with Erica Patterson. He was also charged with felony intimidation of a victim because he called her from jail threatening her if she didn't drop the domestic violence charges.
The parade attack triggered a backlash against bail reform. And this was not the only incident that triggered that backlash.
Yeah.
After 2020, when all those people were getting out, this was happening all over the country.
Yeah.
And the office of the Milwaukee District Attorney John T. Chisholm, which had set his bail, said in a statement that, quote, the state's bail recommendation in this case was inappropriately low in light of the nature of the recent charges and the pending charges against Mr. Brooks, unquote.
They said that the bail was a result of human error of an overworked assistant district attorney.
What?
And the court commissioner who set the recommended cash bail for Brooks just weeks before the tragedy was reassigned to non-criminal matters indefinitely.
System failure.
System failure.
System failure alert. Yeah. Like, I'm just picturing red lights flashing. Yeah, but the red lights flashing are people's lives. Like, that's what's so unfortunate about these system failures.
Yeah.
In the wake of the tragedy, white supremacists, here they come, use the tragedy to sow racist and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories on the ground and online. They have blamed both Jewish people and the liberal media for covering up, quote, black-on-white attack, unquote.
White supremacists often exploit current events to support or confirm their pre-existing beliefs. Although Brooks had made some hateful posts on social media and indicated support for some conspiratorial beliefs, there is no evidence that he was a member of any organized group.
Do they need to be members though to
They
hold
don't.
these
No,
beliefs?
but
they don't need a club card. You
no,
know what I'm
they
saying?
don't. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
but read on.
So, given Brooks's race and the race of the victims, white supremacists have claimed that the incident was a, quote, anti-white terror attack.
So what they're saying is that he did it on purpose. He was attacking
to kill white people. Right.
To kill white people.
Right.
And I don't think that's true.
I don't think so either. And I think I mentioned that in my takeaways. We'll talk about it a little bit more. But despite the fact that there is no evidence of this, it just happens that Waukesha is a very white town. And if your goal is to murder people and you're in a white town, guess
run
what?
Over whoever
if your
there.
goal if your goal is to sell Girl Scout cookies in a white town, all your customers are going to be white. Like, that's just the way it works.
Yeah, that's how it is. I don't think he planned on running these people over at the parade either. I think he just
was in a fit of
ran
rage.
into the parade and he was raging. So Brooks is currently incarcerated at the Wisconsin Secure Program Facility, originally the Supermax Correctional Institute, a Wisconsin Department of Corrections prison for men located in Boscobel, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin is also one of those places that's been accused of prison gerrymandering and using the mostly black and brown prison population in order to get more resources for the people who are not incarcerated there, but using the incarcerated population's human numbers to count towards their resources.
Gross.
Anyway, that's a topic for another day. Let's get into our takes, Beth. What did you think about this case?
So to me, it sounds like mental illness did play a major role. Mm-hmm. And I give the mental health experts who examined Brooks and said he didn't suffer from mental illness a big old side eye.
Yeah. What?
But if you're going by the law and what the law allows as far as, what counts as mental illness, if you know right from wrong, you're competent to stand trial. And I don't think that they allow you to use insanity defense. But that doesn't mean that you don't suffer from a mental illness.
Sure.
Yeah, and his family said he had bipolar disorder. Like we said, we don't know if that was correct, if that diagnosis was correct, or if he suffered from something else.
Right.
And his behavior in court was extreme. Mm-hmm. It sounds to me like with all this sovereign citizen stuff and the way he presented things, the way he talked, like he had some kind of a thought disorder. And thought disorders are most commonly associated with schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorders, but can also be a symptom of bipolar disorder or even depression, ADHD, or autism. And like we discussed, there was a documentary about crystal meth, so I'm curious to know if there was a drug addiction involved. If you have a mental illness, even if it's just depression or something like that, if you add drugs into the mix, it's not good.
Not good.
No
good. Bueno.
Yeah. But that was the only reference to methamphetamine use that I found. Nobody else said he was using or anything, so I don't know.
Okay.
And a personality disorder was mentioned, but I couldn't find anything else about that. I imagine it was probably antisocial personality disorder, probably with narcissism, but again, couldn't find anything about that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it played a role, but as my wise friend Beth says, not an excuse.
No.
But maybe an explanation.
Yeah, definitely an explanation.
Yeah, my thought was he's just like an agent of chaos, and violence. And he was wilding out in the courtroom, which I don't think I've seen it as extreme as that, but
he was behaving like a child.
Yeah, really unreasonable. And again, shout out to the judge. I don't usually say nice things about judges, but this judge really, I think, tried to, there was a point in the trial where all the victims gave impact statements, all the surviving family members and stuff gave impact statements. And when the guilty verdict was read, now this doesn't normally happen in a trial, but the judge allowed people to clap.
Oh, wow.
Because the community was relieved.
Yeah.
And normally judges don't let that kind of shit fly in a courtroom either.
They're like, don't do it.
Yeah, but this judge let it fly, because I feel like she is a real public servant and knew that the public in her community needed that moment.
Yeah.
And so shout out to the judge. It really, again, I listened to the whole trial. it really bothered me. He brought his ex-girlfriend in, Erica, and was questioning her on the stand.
Oh, jeez.
Just to torture her.
To do it.
It was sick and fucking evil, and the judge shut that shit down. Because he probably would have questioned her for hours, days, if the judge had not.
Wow.
This judge was really something. She was great. And then he literally went from one crime to another.
Yeah.
Beating his girlfriend in the car and then to the parade. And, I get that he had a mental illness diagnosis, but so do many people, and they don't kill and hurt other people in this way.
So the technical term is something ain't right.
Yeah. It's an ancient term.
There was something wrong with him.
Yeah. So right. And this sovereign citizen thing, I went down a whole rabbit hole. Wesley Snipes.
It's interesting. It's really dumb.
A lot of white
but
supremacists. Yeah, they have their own special license plates because they don't believe they need to register their cars. They don't believe that they have to have driver's license. Like it's interesting. And again, I thought it was white shit, but it's not. And it's growing, actually, globally. There's sovereign citizens here and in other parts of the world. But it's a fascinating concept. Also, I was thinking just about the carnage and the chaos at the scene and hearing people describe what happened and hearing people describe the sounds.
Yeah.
Not just the screams, but the sounds of bodies being impacted.
Yeah.
Was really, it just took me to, it sent me. And I remember when this happened, and I remember how horrifying it was to hear about it on the news. And just at this moment, while we are talking about this case, after researching it pretty extensively amongst ourselves, just thinking about the people and the community who still to this day are here and having to deal with the pain of this horror every day. And it's the holidays, right? And so bringing all that up again, just our hearts go out to everybody who's dealing with the
affected
aftermath of this case. So that's it for our coverage of the story. Now we're going to move on to how not to get murdered. If you love true crime and you don't want to die, here's a tip for you.
This segment is not intended to be victim blaming. We thought of this segment because I read somewhere that a lot of people listen to true crime because they want to know what they can do to be safer. This is not meant to blame the victims. It's just learning from other people's experiences.
And that's right. So this is the holidays. It can be a really, really hard time for many, many people. And I just wanted to share a couple quick mental health resources, starting with a cool one that I just learned about from listening to This American Life called Never Use Alone. There's a lot of people seem to use extra during the holidays because of how painful and hard the season can be.
Right.
So if you call this hotline, 877-696-1996, it's a hotline to prevent overdose, because when you're alone is when you're likely to do that.
To OD, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a toll-free national life-saving crisis response line, and the nurse will be on the line with you and say, make sure you have the door unlocked, make sure you hide your shit, make sure you have this and that, so that a harm reduction approach, so that if you're going to use, it's as safe as possible. So that resource. Also, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is another resource for those who need it. 1-800-799-7233 or text START to 88788. These will all be in the show notes.
Yeah.
Don't forget about the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You can call 988 if you are in need of something, someone, somewhere. Call that hotline. Also, RAIN, RAINN, at rain.org or 800-656-4673. And that's all I've got. Just don't suffer in silence. Reach out for help. This part of the year is hard.
Yeah.
And 2024 is trash. So
it's almost over.
It's almost over.
But then, never mind.
Yeah. Then 2025 is going to be trash.
Oh, God. Okay, never mind.
Every year is trash.
Forget about it.
May I
Forget about
it. So do you have anything to add, Fred?
No, I don't.
Okay. And again, all those will be in the show notes, or you can find the transcript of the show and follow along and copy and paste, whatever.
All right.
So now it is shout out time, where we shout out any content by or about people of color, by or about anybody who's marginalized, or any true crime goodies. And I just wanted to shout out Vow of Silence on Hulu, exploring the life and murder of Annie Mae Waukesha, a Mi'kmaq woman from Nova Scotia, Canada, whose death in the 1970s went unsolved for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Check it out. I also wanted to share a cool free self-care tool. Ooh, I found. It's called Finch.
Oh, okay.
It's this little bird, and he wakes you up. You download the app, and it's just basic stuff. I'm basically just getting through the end of the year at the skin of my teeth, and my teeth have no skin on them. So that's the issue. And Finch is like, did you brush your teeth today? A million points. Did you wash your face? Oh my God, you're amazing. Stuff like that. So it's a free app, and I'm doing it with my family and my siblings.
Oh, nice.
And so we're all using Finch to support each other and be as positive as possible to make it through the end.
Very cool.
What do you got, Beth?
Well, I just wanted to shout out again Homicide for the Holidays on Peacock, and one of the episodes features our one and only Wendy.
Oh my God.
You'll just have to watch the entire
just
of the
watch
seasons
it all.
to find
tell
her.
me if you can find Fruitloops on one of them. Yeah. Actually, take a screenshot and
send
tag
it to
us. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I wanted to, this time of year, sometimes I watch a lot of holiday movies and shows because, it's kind of an escape and it's nice. And one of my comfort movies, one of the ones that I like to watch every year is Last Holiday with Queen Latifah.
Wait, I didn't know why people like that one.
Oh, I love that
movie.
one. Yeah. That's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love you so much. Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah, of course.
We might have to do a watch.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just wondering if you had a favorite holiday movie that you like to watch or a show.
Oh, yes. I have so many. But my favorite is This Christmas with Loretta Devine. Idris Elba is in it. Regina King is in it. And it's just it's one of those black family Christmas movies.
Okay,
and,
cool.
God, this is so stupid. But every time it comes on, I have to shut everything down in the house and just open my arms wide like this and shout, and this Christmas will be a very special Christmas. Because Chris Brown, anyway, he's problematic. He's not the best part of the movie, but it's just,
fun movie. Yeah.
So much. That's my favorite.
Very cool.
Let us know what your favorite holiday end of the year tradition, feel good things are. In the meantime, let me re-shout out those things. Vow of Silence on Hulu, the self-care app Finch, Homicide for the Holidays on Peacock, Last Holiday with Queen Latifah, and This Christmas with Loretta Devine. And that's all.
All right.
Beth, where can the people find us?
Our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media. The footnotes for each episode can be found on our website. Plus, check it out for the different ways that you can support the show. Also, join us on Patreon, where we have literally hundreds of hours of bonus content. You can also support us by supporting our sponsors or by giving us a 5-star review.
5 stars only, please.
Also, don't forget to subscribe.
That's right. Now, listen close. This is a weekly podcast, and new episodes drop every Thursday. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there. here's the thing. Okay, so as I explained earlier, we're in a KOA resort.
Right.
And nobody stays at these things when it's this cold.
In the winter, yeah.
So we basically have the whole place to ourselves.
So you're living out The Shining at a KOA campground. Gotcha.
And, do you know, I made the mistake today. We're gonna have to get into it how are we doing? Should we just start the episode?
Yeah, let's start the episode. Let's go.
Okay.
All right.
I was just looking at your antlers and wanted. Is there a way to give you a carrot? You look so cute. You need a treat. Do you want an apple a little bit? Okay, sorry. Back to the story. I'm ruining everything.
In March of 2011, October 3rd, 2022. I don't know why I'm trying to say that all fancy.
It's okay. You're a reindeer. You can do what you want.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want. Phew. Okay.
Ooh, I have my tea. Let's see if it's finally drinkable temperature.
Was it hot?
So hot. So hot. But,
still hot?
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Okay,
it's perfect.
Cool.
Oh. Yeah, it's weird not having a kitchen. So we have to, because we're in this little cabin.
Right.
There's only so much power that you can use at one time. So if we
do one thing, you have to stop doing something else.
Unplug everything else.
Yeah.
So if you want a cup of tea or coffee, you have to unplug everything to do it. Or if we want to turn on the microwave, you have to unplug everything to do it. But still, it's working. Like, again, I'm smiling, Beth. We are so happy right
That's
now.
awesome.
It's crazy. Yeah. This is so cool.
Whatever. It's awesome.
Super unconventional, but super duper awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I feel like that's the name of my new show. Unconventional and awesome. That's going to be the name of our new extra bonus content.
Okay.
Okay. I'm good. Don't let me forget that. All right.
I already forgot it.
God damn it. I got to write it
But
in my notes.
it's on wax. So.
Unconventional. Yes, I will listen to it. But I am going to jot it down. Unconventional and awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
and,
well,
we're top of the charts in Russia. So and that's all
right.
Good, because my laptop is about to die.
Oh, no. Okay. All right.
It was so good. I got to see you 2 times this week, friend.
Yeah.
Also,
very
Minnie,
cool.
thanks for editing our show every week. We love you. And
we'll talk to you on the internet.
I'll talk to you on the internet. Do we have? We don't have anything. This is it, right?
This
we get a
is
break.
it. Yeah.
We get a break.
We get a break.
Good. Okay.
Yes.
I love you, friend.
Love you too.
Get some good sleep.
You too.
And I'll get this in the drive as soon as I can. Okay.
Nighty-night. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Is the pressure of your wedding day being perfect from sunrise to sunset weighing on your mind? Planning a wedding is stressful. But guess what? We are here to help. On the Bridechilla podcast, we celebrate love and help you plan your wedding day. We're all about keeping it real and having fun every step of the way. So whether you're just starting to plan or counting down the days, we're here to help you stay cool, calm, and collected. We have expert tips and amazing guests like wedding dress designer Haley Page. Let's get this party started and embrace your inner Bridechilla. Listen to Bridechilla wherever you get podcasts or visit us at thebridechilla.com.
3 a.m., the comedy horror podcast that holds weekly gatherings around the campfire. Let me tell you what you're going to get. You're going to hear stories about demonic possessions, prison stabbings, skinwalkers, glitches in the Matrix, cult leaders, missing 411, night marchers, Operation Paperclip, Mesopotamian devil worship, and so many monsters it'll give Kanye West a runaway for his money. Pop and meme culture also aren't off topic. A camp where laughs and scares are constantly competing for first place. We're just a group of friends, trying to bust each other's balls, find the best stories, and expand the circle in the process. 3 a.m., the comedy horror podcast not for the faint or fragile of heart. Let's go.